Indigenous people have always known that water is life. Across North and South America, indigenous peoples, from the smallest family village to the largest communities, lived their lives next to rivers, springs, lakes, lagoons, cenotes, and the oceans. Water was not an afterthought, it was the first consideration. In those times, the waters of this land ran pure, alive, unpolluted, and blessed. Most surviving interpretations of the Mashika's codices were rewritten or altered by Europeans who did not share and often did not attempt to understand indigenous worldviews. Colonial reinterpretations of the codices deliberately reshaped Mashika belief systems to fit a Christian worldview, labeling indigenous spiritual concepts as pagan, idolatry, or demonic, terms rooted in European theology rather than indigenous reality. What Europeans labeled as gods in the Mashika codices were not gods at all. To indigenous people, these were living forces: the sun, moon, stars, wind, rain, fire, and Mother Earth herself, understood not as distant spirits, but as living relations. These forces were experienced as kin, beings with whom people lived in an ongoing relationship, depended upon survival, and honored as members of an extended living family. Each of these forces had its own personality, role, responsibility within the balance of the world and nature. This presentation returns to the codices as cultural and intellectual records interpreted within the Mashika worldview rather than through colonial judgment. The Mashika's connection to the natural world was so profound that they related to these forces the way we relate to family, as relatives who teach, warn, comfort, and guide. These relatives help them understand the weather, the seasons, and the movements of the stars. The Mashika were honoring something far deeper, the very elements themselves, the forces of nature that sustained and shaped life on Earth Mother. For the Mashika, like all indigenous people, water was an enduring gift from Creator. The statues and the images were acknowledgments, visual expressions of gratitude for the natural powers that sustained their world. To honor this relationship, the Mashika created statues and images so their children would remember to respect these relatives and never forget the importance of their existence. These relatives had names: Taklak, a male spirit representing rain, water, lightning, and fertility; Chachuklikwe, a female spirit representing fresh water, including rivers, lakes, and the sea; and Ahekalt Quetzalcoatl, the spirit of the wind that speaks before the rain. Long ago, before there were pipes or pumps, the Mashika people learned to catch and take care of spring water. This process begins high in the mountains. Imagine snow at the top of a mountain. When it melts, the water flows down into the ground. Some of it sinks into the earth, traveling quietly through sand, pebbles, and rocks. As it moves underground, the earth filters the water naturally, removing dirt and tiny particles. This water gathers in a hidden space called a confined aquifer. Think of it like a giant underground water pocket, trapped beneath layers of rock. Sometimes the water can't go any further. Maybe it hits a solid wall of rock. Because it has nowhere else to go, pressure pushes it up, and up comes fresh, clean spring water. This is the birth of the spring itself, a flowing fountain of clean water. The water is ready to drink, but the Mashika didn't stop there. They wanted to make it even cleaner. and safer. When the spring water first appeared, it might bubble up through rocks, mud, or grass. To catch this water, the Mashika built a catchment basin around it. This basin was like a special bottomless cup for the spring, holding the water so it could settle and be filtered even more. Water collected in the catchment basin and passed through carefully arranged layers of material, leaving dirt and sediment behind. At the bottom, the first layer was sand to trap fine particles. On top of the sand, pebbles were added to stabilize flow and remove large debris, and porous volcanic stone at the outlet to regulate pressure. By the time the water reached the top of the basin, it ran clear and exited using gravity alone, flowing through a deliberately constructed opening into covered channels known as aqueducts. Far away at Chapultepec, fresh water was collected from springs. These springs fed not just one, but two long aqueducts, like giant water highways that carried the water all the way into the city. The aqueducts started on land and then had to travel over water to reach the island where the city was built. To do this, the Mashika engineers lifted the aqueducts on tall supports, like stilts, so the aqueducts could flow above the lake without touching the water below. This made sure the fresh water stayed clean. The aqueducts were about 12 to 15 inches wide and roughly a foot and a half deep, about 30 to 38 centimeters wide and around 46 centimeters deep. They were built with just the right angle, a gentle slope, enough to keep the water moving smoothly, but soft enough to prevent flooding or excess pressure, ensuring a constant flow throughout the city. These aqueducts and the trench-like channels that carried water throughout the city were likely lined with plaster made from locally available materials, preventing contamination from the surrounding soil. In areas of heavy foot traffic to and from the Templo Mayor, small bridges were incorporated over the channels to allow for safe and efficient movement across them. To protect the water and maintain cleanliness, flat stone slabs, likely flagstones, were laid across the top of the aqueducts and channels, forming a continuous covered conduit. These slabs could be lifted whenever maintenance or cleaning was required. When the water reached the heart of the city, it entered a large final and main filtration building near the Templo Mayor. Each aqueduct came in through its own opening, one on the left, one on the right. Inside this building, the water passed through another special filtration system with volcanic rock on top, pebbles in the middle, and sand at the bottom to make sure it was as clean as possible before it traveled out into the neighborhood. This schematic is my own reconstruction, inspired by archaeological and historical research on Tenochtitlan's water systems. While not every detail is preserved in record, it is designed to help visualize how fresh water could have been delivered systematically to every neighborhood. My goal was to show why the city's streets and houses were so carefully organized, as strongly supported by historical accounts from multiple sources. The Mashika's hydraulic engineering and urban planning were deeply connected. As these lines exited the main filtration building, two main lines carried water north and south along the perimeter of the Templo Mayor. The line flowing north supplied neighborhoods of the northwest quadrant while also extending eastward to reach the neighborhoods of the northeast quadrant. The line flowing south supplied the neighborhoods of the southwest quadrant while also extending eastward to reach the neighborhoods of the southeast quadrant. At the downstream edge of each quadrant, the channel extended for approximately a mile and were filled with sand, pebbles, and volcanic rock, with aquatic plants such as cattails and bulrush added to further filter the water. Because of the high population density of the city, before rejoining the lake, the water passes through another filtration building, providing an additional stage of purification before exiting into the lake. Each home was connected to two separate water systems, a freshwater channel running along the left side of the house and the wastewater channel running along the right. Together, these lines formed a continuous network that served the entire neighborhood. From the outside, the design becomes even clearer. The entrance opens at the center of the home, while the freshwater channel enters on the left, delivering clean flowing water. On the right, a separate channel carries wastewater away. Every neighboring house follows this same pattern, creating a synchronized system that allowed water to move efficiently through the community. This consistency is one reason early observers noted how orderly the city appeared. It was built according to shared principles rather than individual improvisation. The wastewater line only enters the home at one carefully controlled location, the bathroom. This space protrudes slightly from the main structure, allowing wastewater channel to remain outside the living and sleeping areas. This was intentional. By isolating wastewater flow to a single area, builders reduced noise, minimized odors, and maintained a cleaner, more sanitary environment throughout the home. Here we see a family moment, a mother helping her child wash his hands. The Mashika produced soap from the yucca plant, whose roots create a natural lather when mixed with water. Cleanliness was not incidental. It was practiced daily, taught within the household, and supported by the water system itself. The kitchen area was positioned alongside the freshwater channel, ensuring constant access to clean water for food preparation. In this scene, women sit together on woven mats, a communal activity rooted in both nourishment and tradition. The flowing water behind them is not decorative. It reflects a practical system that supported daily life. Meals were shared on the floor, gathered on rugs, reinforcing social bonds and equality within the household. The freshwater channel continues behind the family, flowing in the same direction as throughout the neighborhood. Even here, the water system remains visually and functionally present, a quiet reminder that the city's infrastructure was woven directly into everyday life. The sleeping area is deliberately kept simple and calm. Notably, no wastewater channel runs through this space. By keeping the line outside the bedroom walls, the household remained quieter, cleaner, and more comfortable. A mother prepares bedding while children play nearby, a reflection of domestic life supported by thoughtful design rather than disrupted by it. Taken together, these images show that Mashika homes were not only functional, but deeply intentional. This is not modern plumbing. There are no pipes, no flush mechanisms, and no mechanical systems. What exists instead is environmental engineering, the controlled use of elevation, flow, and enclosure. Water was managed by precision, cleanliness was prioritized, and living spaces were designed with an understanding of human needs. The uniformity of these homes reflects shared knowledge passed through generations. The destruction of Tenochtitlan also marked the loss of an advanced sanitation system that Europeans neither understood nor preserved. Lacking understanding of indigenous hydraulic engineering and having eliminated the communities who held that knowledge, colonial authorities dismantled functioning infrastructure instead of maintaining it. The city's water system was not abandoned due to inefficiency, but because its design fell outside the European worldview of the time. What was lost was not only a city, but a sophisticated understanding of cleanliness, balance, and communal responsibility. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and the ring notification bell for my upcoming videos. This has been a Blue Wolf production.